think it's recording. Yep, it's recording. All right, so what we have going on today, we'll do our discussion on animals, and you have your study guide, okay, that is for classification section 3. That test is Thursday. On Wednesday, I'm going to talk about our taxonomy project. If you want to look ahead, it's right here. On Wednesday, I'll tell you about our taxonomy project. It's due on Friday. Okay, so Wednesday, I'll tell you about the taxonomy project. Thursday is your test for classification. Friday, your project is due, and I'll give you the study guide for the whole chapter. Okay, it's all right here. If you just open each day of Schoology this week, it tells you 100% what you need. It shows you all about your deadlines. It shows you all about when everything is due. And it shows all about what you're going to need if you just open up each day of Schoology this week. So what I said for our animal discussion, let me pull that up. For our animal discussion today, I ask you to download this worksheet right here. It says right here, classifying animals. Download this worksheet because I'm going to go over the answers with you, and you need to be able to type them in as we go. They're short. It won't take you long, but you need to have this sheet ready to write on right now. All right, so go ahead and get that sheet ready. We're going to do our discussion on the animals, and here's your study guide for the classification section. I'll go over that after we're done talking. All right, so let me pull up our PowerPoint as well, so I can pull up. There we go. So let me minimize this for just a second and minimize this for just a second so that I have fewer things open right here. Okay, animals. Okay, so we have been doing classification, and we talked about that there are, let's see, hang on. Screen, get that picture before we get started. All right. And it's 140. Paste and save. I'll go check that in a little while. This way I know who's here and who's paying attention and who's in their camera. All right, so we talked about that there were two kingdoms of bacteria. There's the archaebacteria, and archa means old. They're the extremophiles that like what it was like. They love what it was like on the ancient earth. Archaebacteria are the extremophiles. The eubacteria, that's the other kingdom of bacteria. They're the common bacteria that are everywhere. But both of those bacteria kingdoms do not have a nucleus. That's why they're off to themselves. Everybody else, these bottom four, every one of them has a nucleus. That's why they're separated out. These top two do not have a nucleus. No nucleus. Prokaryote, no nucleus. No. Prokaryote, no nucleus. All right. And so these bottom four are all eukaryotes. They do. You do. The eukaryotes do have a nucleus. That's how the first way we divide the kingdoms. Okay, now we've talked about the funguses. All right, with our funguses, there are some, every one of them has a nucleus. That's how they got to be separated. So the funguses, they do have a nucleus. They also have a cell wall like a plant does, but they have to eat like an animal does. They have a cell wall like a plant does, but they have to eat like an animal does. That's why they can't belong to either one of those two categories. The cell wall like a plant, but they have to eat like an animal. And in the fungus category, most of them are multicellular, but there's one or two single cellulars. Okay, there's one or two unicellular or single celled. Most of them are multicell. Now in the protist category, that's opposite. Most of them are single celled, and there's a few that are multicelled. Do you see how we switched them? Fungus, most are multicelled, a few are single celled. The protist, a few are multicelled, most are single celled, but they all have a nucleus. Okay, in the protist, some are animal-like, some are plant-like, some are fungus-like. That's why it's a junk drawer. Okay, moving up to plants and animals, Every one of them is multicellular. There are no single-celled animals and there are no single-celled plants. Every one of them is multicellular. And in the plants, of course, they have the cell wall, they do photosynthesis, and they never move. They're not mobile. The animal cells, they don't have a cell wall. They don't do photosynthesis. They have to eat their food. And at some point in every animal's life, whether it's a vertebrate like us, where we have a backbone, or an invertebrate like a bug or anything, all right, at some point in every animal's life, they are mobile. They can move around. Okay, so that's the difference between each of the kingdoms. Let's focus on the animals today. We know that they can't make their own food. They have to eat their food. Let me shrink this down so I can still see y'all. Get this a little bit better. Um, it's not great. Shrink this down. I still want to be able to see this. I think that'll work better. Okay. All right. So animals can't make their own food. They don't have cell walls. Okay. And they have, like the bugs and the insects, they have the skeleton on the outside. The rest of us have a skeleton on the inside. Okay. That's why we don't need cell walls, because we have skeletons either on the outside or the inside. Or like jellyfish, the water supports them. So we don't have cell walls, and every single animal is mobile at some point in their life. Think about a barnacle on the bottom of a ship. I don't know if you've seen them. They just kind of sit there on the bottom of the ship, and they never move. So as a Miss Gales, you just told me every animal moves at some point in his life. Yes, at some point in his life. When that barnacle is a larvae, okay, it will be free floating in the ocean. Okay, so at some point in every animal's life, it is mobile. Plants never move. All right. All right, moving on. Now there's two groups of animals, vertebrates and invertebrates. It's talking about your backbone. Invertebrates do not have a backbone. Vertebrates do have a backbone. Okay. Invertebrates don't. Vertebrates do. Okay. That's what you call your backbone. All right. So invertebrates, they don't have a backbone. We're talking stuff like coral and lobsters and crabs and jellyfish and starfish and butterflies and bugs. Those are all invertebrates, and worms and bees and all sorts of things. Those are invertebrates. They do not have a backbone. All right. The biggest group of all of the invertebrates are the insects. All right. So the insects, they have a waterproof external skeleton. They have their bones on the outside. That's why bugs go crunch when you step on them. Their skeletons on the outside. Okay, they move and reproduce quickly. Most of them can fly, and their small size means that they can they don't need a lot of food. Okay, they don't need a lot of food, and they can hide in tiny places. But look at this breakdown here. Let's see if I can get this picture big for you. Look at this pie chart. This is every organism on the earth. Every living organism, the stuff we've been trying to put into kingdoms and stuff. This is all of them. All right, we got even viruses, which doesn't count as a living thing. Okay, here's the bacteria right here, and here's the funguses right here. Can you see where my mouse is at? All right, can you see where my mouse is at? All right, and here's the algae, okay? Spiders, okay? But this category right here, look, see right here where it says chordates? This one right here? That's us. Because cord, like spinal cord, this is where we have the animals with backbones. This is where we would be. Okay, this tiny little, look how tiny this is, this navy blue spot. Get that a little bit bigger. That's all we are. You see how tiny that little bit is right there? That's us. Okay. Everything else, okay, this big giant category right here, these are the insects. Bees and butterflies and beetles and stuff. Okay. All right. That's them. So the insects are the biggest group of any group of animals, of anything in the whole living things. By far the biggest of anything. All right, but that's pretty gross. All right, that's a bed bug, I believe. Okay, but the vertebrates, we have some that are good and some that are bad, the invertebrates. Okay, we know that they can cause sicknesses. We know that the bugs can make us sick. We know that some are good for us, like bees when they make honey or when they pollinate the flowers for the plants we need. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. All right, now let's move on to the vertebrates. That's where we are. Okay, this is us. All right, and what I want you to do is, this is where we're going to use this worksheet. All right. Did you fix it up so that you can write on it yet? Does anybody have any questions as to how to find it? Is everybody ready? Okay, I'll show you one more time just to be sure. It's in today's Schoology. All right, open up today's Schoology. Okay, Monday. Under our discussion, right here, classifying animals. Get this worksheet ready to write on. You just have to catch up to me, okay? All right, so these are the 5 classes of vertebrates. All right, remember we go kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Do you remember learning that when we worked with the amoeba sisters and with the queen nerdling? The project that you're going to do this week, the project that's due on Friday, is going to cover kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. And they talked about a little bit on the amoeba sisters, especially using funny little sentences to help you remember them in order. I'm trying to get this fixed up so I can do it right, so I can still see this and still see y'all. All right, this needs to be over here. Okay, so the sentence I used to remember is for domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Dumb kings play chess on fat green stools. That's how I can remember them in order. Domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. You'll be able to do the same thing. Your project on Friday will have you learning or thinking up some funny little sentences to help you remember them in order. All right. So if this is the kingdom animal, we're talking about animals right here. All right. We said that there were 2 types of animals, vertebrates and invertebrates. Well, those are the 2 phyla or phylum. Those are the 2 phyla of animals. There's the phyla invertebrates and the phyla vertebrates. Well, we're going to talk about the vertebrates, and there are 5 classes in that phyla. Okay, we're going to talk about the 5 classes of vertebrates today. And this would be a lot easier. I'm going to be asking you a bunch of questions, guys. So you just hop on the mic and holler when you know one of the answers, okay? Is everybody ready? Just get ready to hop on the mic and answer the question if you know, okay? We're going to talk about these 5 classes of mammals. First off with the fish, okay? Do the fish have a skeleton with a backbone? Do the fish have a backbone? How many of you guys fishermen? Have you had to take a fish apart? Cooked fish? Do they have a backbone? They do. In fact, everybody here does. This is why they're in this group, because all of these guys have a backbone. This is why we put them here. So you can go ahead and mark yes all the way across here. Every one of these guys has a backbone. That's why they're here. All right, let's go back to the fish. What type of sorry for the typos, guys. What type of body covering do the fish have? Again, my fishermen, when you have to take them off, you take a knife and you scrape them this way. What type of body covering do fish have? Come on, fishermen. Or fisherwomen. What? Go ahead and answer.
Don't they have scales?
They do have scales. That's right, Charles. They have scales. All right. And they get everywhere. Okay, but that's what their body covering is. But that means then they have to live in the water their whole life. Okay. What we're going to be talking about as we talk about each of these animals is we know that life started in the ocean. So what we're going to talk about is how did each one of these animals come up with something new that let them get further and further away from the water so that they can live on dry land. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about. So the scales on fish, that body covering means they have to stay, one of the things, okay, they have to stay in water. Okay, do fish breathe with lungs or gills? Again, just holler off the answer.
Gills.
Yes, sir, gills. All right, all right. Now, let's move that up to a frog and think about what's next. What type of body covering do frogs have? They don't have scales. They have smooth, moist skin. All right. And they can actually breathe through their skin. Okay, so it's smooth, moist, so it has to stay wet all the time. Breathable skin. You got to keep up with me, okay? You can listen to me talking while you write this down. They have smooth, moist, breathable skin. They breathe through their skin. And what I'm teaching my environmental science kids, because they're talking about the pollutions and all the stuff humans do to the environment, that's what we talk about in that class, the stuff humans do. Because frogs have, and this not just frogs, it's frogs and salamanders that are amphibians. Salamanders are not lizards. Salamanders are not lizards. So that we're talking frogs and salamanders. They have smooth, breathable skin. And because their skin is breathable, if there's pollution or poison in the environment, they will feel it first and it will kill off all your frogs. So if you had an environment that had a lot of frogs and all of a sudden they're gone, there might be some poison in the atmosphere or in the water. Okay, but they have smooth, more breathable skin. But that means then they can get out of the water a little bit. They have to keep coming back because they have to keep their skin moist, but they can get out for a little while and come back and get out for a little while and come back. All right, think about the skin cover. And so with the frogs, do they breathe with gills? Frogs, do they have gills? They've got lungs. And everybody else has lungs all the way across. That was one thing that they invented with the amphibians that let us get out of the water. Once we invented lungs with the amphibians, now we can get out of the water if we want to. And they can get out. They have to come back because their skin has to stay wet, but they can spend time out because that's where there's more stuff to eat. There's more stuff to eat and fewer predators or easier places to hide. So let's think about the skin of reptiles. I'm talking alligators and lizards and turtles. All right, snakes. They do have scales too, but they're hard, dry scales, right? Waterproof scales. Dry, waterproof scales. Whoops, hold on. It doesn't belong there. Does not belong there. It belongs here with the reptiles. Sorry. Cut, paste. Over here. This is where this goes. So they have dry, waterproof scales. Now, think about it. With the frogs, they have to keep coming back to the water. The amphibians, they can get away from the water for a little while, but then they have to come back. The reptiles, they can spend their whole life away from water now. It's the skin covering that helped them do that. Now let's talk about their eggs, okay, because that also is a big deal. That's the next category. All right, live birth or eggs. All right, now let's think about the eggs of fish, caviar, okay, the eggs of fish. Do you know how fish, okay, what they do is the male drops his stuff in the water and the female drops her eggs in the water. If they meet, and then it's all fine. But they don't plan it ahead of time. And if the water washes it away, they'll never have babies. You listening? He just drops his stuff in the water. She drops her stuff in the water. And if it meets, it meets. All right. So they do with eggs. They do have the eggs. They don't do live birth, but the eggs are, well, eggs, we're going to call it gametes because that's what you call them before. I'm trying to find the best way to put this down for you. Gametes just dropped in the water. E.T. Well, you'll see what I'm talking about when I talk about the frogs. Okay, that's right. We'll just put eggs. Frogs are eggs too. But the thing about it is, where with the fish, they just drop the stuff in the water and hope for the best. The frogs and amphibians, they pre-fertilize. Okay, they actually mix the male and the female parts before she lays her eggs. So they know they will be fertilized. Okay, so where the fish, they just drop the stuff in the water and hope for the best. With the amphibians, the eggs are pre-fertilized. The male and the female, they put their parts together before she lays the eggs. So they are pre-fertilized, but they're very jelly-like. Have you ever seen baby tadpole eggs? You ever seen baby tadpole eggs? So they are pre-fertilized, but they're jelly-like. Pre-fertilized jelly-like eggs, okay? Which means they have got to stay in the water because they're jelly-like. If they dry out, the babies will die. There is no choice. They must be in the water. So do you see why I'm talking about the amphibians? They can get out of the water, but they have to keep coming back. Have you ever seen a snake's egg or an alligator's egg? The shell on a reptile egg looks a lot like a baseball without stuffing. You know, a baseball with no stuffing, just a baseball with no stuffing in it? Okay, so they're leathery. The eggs are leathery. Okay, and because the eggs are leathery, they are very water resistant. It takes a long, long time for them to dry out. So they're water resistant. They don't dry out very easily at all, which means now they don't have to even go back to the water to lay their eggs. They are free to go anywhere. Do you see, guys? Are you paying attention? Do you see how we're getting further and further from dependence on the water? That's why it's important. We don't want to have to depend on the water. So the fish, they don't have a choice. Between their skin, their gills, their eggs, they got to stay in the water. They don't have a choice. The frogs, they have that moist, breathable skin, and they have lungs, so they can get out of the water for some times. But when it comes time to lay their eggs, they must lay them back in the water or they will not make it. The reptiles, they have the dry, waterproof scales. They're not going to lose any water, not through their skin. And they have lungs, and they have leathery eggs. Okay, that means they are able to go much, much further. Let's think about this warm-blooded versus cold-blooded thing, though, this last one down here. Okay, warm-blooded versus cold-blooded. Okay, are fish cold-blooded? Yes. Oops, where am I writing at? Hang on, I need to fix this. Resistant. Fish are cold-blooded. Amphibians are cold-blooded. Reptiles are cold-blooded. Now, what cold-blooded means is that it doesn't necessarily mean you're cold. It means you are whatever temperature the outside world is. Okay, so I'm going to come back to that in just a second. Let's catch up our mammals and our birds with where we've gotten so far. Are you guys keeping up with me on my sheet here? You're filling in your sheet so that you have the answers? Awesome. Thank you, babe. The rest of you guys, got it? You're getting it filled in? Yes, thank you, thank you. Good, good. Can I see other people? You're keeping up with me filling in this sheet? Is it making sense? Thank you, baby. Good, good. Okay. All right, so let's talk about the skin covering. Okay, birds. What kind of skin covering do the birds have? Come on, someone give me that answer. What kind of skin covering do the birds have?
Feathers.
Feathers. Yes, feathers for flight. All right, and how about the mammals? We're a mammal. What do we have? What do we have? What is this called?
Hair.
Hair. Thank you, baby. Hair and fur. That's what the mammals have. Okay. We call it hair, but in any other animal, you would call it fur. Same thing. Okay. All right. So that's our covering. And that, again, helps us not have to worry about the water. Okay. Because when we get here to the cold-blooded, warm-blooded, I'm going to come back to the eggs in just a second. But cold-blooded, warm-blooded. Are birds warm-blooded or cold-blooded? They're warm-blooded like we are. All right. Now, let me go over the details of what that means. Okay. All right. So when something is cold-blooded, is everybody listening good for the difference between cold-blooded and warm-blooded? You listening good? If something is cold-blooded, it doesn't mean their blood is cold. I'm sorry that they confuse you that way. What it means is they are whatever temperature the outside world is. If it's 20 degrees outside, they will be 20 degrees. If it's 120 degrees outside, they will be 120 degrees. Cold-blooded animals don't have a way to maintain their own temperature. They're going to be whatever temperature the outside world is. And so that means if it's too hot, you have to find shade or water. If it's too cold, you have to find some way either to hibernate or find somebody else to share some heat with or something. That's, you know, how snakes will all pile up in a big snake den. So those are your choices. You can't maintain your own body temperature. You will be whatever temperature the outside world is. But with a warm-blooded animal like us and like birds, We have a temperature inside. Okay, you know humans are supposed to be 98.6 degrees, right? That's our normal temperature. No matter what temperature it is outside, we are 98.6. We have an internal thermostat that keeps us the right temperature. Birds have the same thing. And so because mammals and birds are warm-blooded, they can live anywhere. This is why you can have penguins. Think how cold that is at penguins. But because the birds are warm-blooded, they have an internal thermostat that keeps them at the right temperature, regardless of how cold it is in the Antarctic. So it gives us even more places to live. That's the whole thing, is being able to go from the oceans where life started, able to expand over the whole world. There were no reptiles, no amphibians in the Arctic. No bugs either, because all the bugs are cold-blooded. Okay, the change from cold-blooded to warm-blooded opened up the coldest parts of the world, and now birds and mammals can live there. So that gave us even more places to go. That was why it was a step up. We're trying to get away from out of the ocean. Okay, so let's talk about the eggs. Okay, the eggs in live birth. So we said that when talking about the eggs, the fish, the male threw his parts in and the female threw her parts in, and they just hoped that they got together in the water, and if they didn't, they didn't. With the frogs, they had pre-fertilized eggs, but they were jelly-like, so they had to stay in the water. With the reptiles, they have leather-covered eggs, and the water leaves them very, very slowly. All right, so they are much more water resistant, and they can be laid on land and won't hurt the baby. Birds, they have waterproof eggs. Okay, so they have hard shell, waterproof eggs. Okay, so that means then that they're going to be able to last even longer than even the reptiles will on land. All right, because the water is not going to leave that thing. Now, let's bring that up to the mammals. Do mammals lay eggs? No. So what do you call it? You say we give live birth. All right, so if you think about the fish, they just throw the male and female parts in and they hope for the best. The frogs, they have their jelly-like eggs, but they have to leave them. The reptiles also leave their nest. The bird leaves their nest. And anything can happen to those eggs while the mamas are gone. Okay, mammals, we ain't letting that baby go nowhere. We hold it inside until it's ready to be born. So that's why that is a step up. The birds, the baby has to finish developing inside the egg, and the mother may not always be there to protect it. But with mammals, the baby is developing inside, and so it is protected 24/7 until it's ready to go. So that's why live birth is another step up. You guys see how we're getting better and better? And the very last category is feeding with youngs with milk. Who's that? Which one feeds with milk? Just us. Everybody else is a no. Whoops, hang on. I'm trying to figure out if I can get this right. Back tab. There we go. Everybody else is a no. We're the only ones who feed with milk. And that's how we actually got our name. Mammal, mammary gland is another word for the milk bottle, the mammal's milk bottle. Okay? Do you guys have any questions about this? Our mammal discussion? Let me go over your study guide with you because that's what you're ready to work on next, okay? We're going to take the test over 4.3, which is classification, on, I forgot already, Thursday. We're taking the test over this on Thursday. So this is your study guide. I'm going to give you the rest of today and all day tomorrow to work on it. It is due Wednesday. Wednesday? Let me check Schoology real quick. I can't remember exactly and I don't want to tell you wrong. Thursday. It's due Thursday. Okay, so I'm going to let you turn it in on the day we have the test. So the test is Thursday, the study guide is due Thursday. You guys ready to watch for your instructions? Is everybody looking? Have you downloaded a copy of it yet? because I'm going to let you work on it for the rest of class period today. Let me go over the instructions with you to make sure you're listening good. All right, first is the main ideas of the section. You need to memorize these main ideas, and I want you to highlight the important stuff. Okay, figure out which part of the sentence is the most important and highlight it. Now, then we have our review. Here's the definitions for this chapter and the page number. Do you see what I have up top? I have a copy of your textbook right here on your worksheet. A link to the textbook right here on the worksheet. I do not want you to Google your answers. Nobody's Googling your answers. All of the answers are in the textbook, and that's actually even easier to find than Google because Google keeps getting them wrong. Yes, you have good information when you Google something, but it doesn't match the question. Do not Google your answers. Look them up. I've got your book right here. You just click this link. Okay, just click this link. All of these questions are word for word in your book. It's right here. All right, so it even tells you about what page. I'm pretty sure it's the same page, but it might just be close. This exact page where you're going to find your definition. You've done this once before. All right, and I'm going to try to talk over that. I'm trying to find our PowerPoint. Hold on. I know it's almost time to go. Hold on. Okay, use this. I know it's almost time to go. Wait for me for just a second. All right, this right here. All right, you have done this question another time in one of the other things. If you got the question right and you got good grades and you got good answers, you may use what you wrote the first time, but a lot of you guys did not do a good job. All right, you were Googling stuff, and I don't want you Googling stuff. Use this. Please turn the mic off. You will use this information right here on this table, list the kingdoms, and give me two of the characteristics from this table right here. All right, the next part, okay, is to answer these questions. Again, you are using your book. Do not get them from the Google. This part, you'll have to use the definitions. What's the difference between these things? And then here's your multiple choice questions. Most of these you will see again. These are the questions you will see again on your test on Thursday. So do your very, very best. I won't give you the answers, but if you have some questions, you can ask me tomorrow.
Miss Gills, I need to go.
I know you need to go get on your bus, baby. Okay, bye, princess. The rest of you guys, you are going to work on this the rest of today if you have any time, but otherwise all day tomorrow. If you have any questions, you need to ask me. You are not having a day off tomorrow. You are doing this study guide so that you will be ready for the test on Thursday. Do you guys have any questions? So I'm going to let you go. Okay, and I have recorded this message for today, so it will be on, it will be available for you guys to use if you need any of the information, like the test dates and the due dates and how things are working, the schedule. So it'll be there for you. Let me run my meeting list and shut off the video and